I got no co-host today. I'm very sad. I hope he makes it in the middle of the episode. That's going to keep you guys listening. Will the co-host make it in time before the show's over? But I do have a killer, and I don't mean literally killer, I just mean figuratively awesome guest today in my friend, president of John F. Kennedy High School Schools. He's going to tell you what the title is because I probably already messed it up. My good friend, Mr. Joe Kenneally. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Jim. And it's John F. Kennedy Catholic School.
John F. Kennedy Catholic School. You know, I've heard about this place before. Tell us what it is exactly.
We are a pre-K to 12 educational facility of the Diocese of Youngstown. We are what is left of Catholic education in Trumbull County. At one time, there were several elementary schools. There was St. James, and there was Pius, and there was Blessed Sacrament, and there was St. Joe's, and there were several other Catholic schools in Trumbull County. And as the population declined, so did the enrollment, and eventually we got around to being a one-campus facility on the campus of Blessed Sacrament. So we house pre-K to 5 at the Blessed Sacrament facility, and then 6 to 12 up at John F. Kennedy Catholic High School, still on beautiful Central Parkway.
That is a beautiful 2-minute elevator, what we in the entertainment industry call an elevator pitch, to generalize the information about JFK. Of course, prodders out there, I am kidding, as I am a product of the JFK system and a John F. Kennedy High School graduate. So that's what's kind of special about having Joe on today. It's also what makes our Season 2 super sponsor special. Because Mr. Jim Coates from Coates Car Care is also a JFK graduate, along with his wonderful children, his beautiful wife, his immediate family, and he owns Coates Car Care.
They are Kennedy royalty at its best. They're nothing but Coates that have gone through there, and, you know, Jimmy and his family are one of our biggest supporters.
And they're just all-around awesome people. They have 5 locations in the Valley. They've got a newest location in Cortland. They have a location in Niles, Howland, Austintown, and I said Cortland.
Don't forget about Hermitage.
And Hermitage, that's the one I missed. Thank you. That's why you're here, Joe, to cover my you-know-what. So shout out to Coates. You can check them out at coatescarcare.com. They've got some service specials. Listen, if you're still listening to this in 2020 and you're not listening to this into the future, because these stay forever, Joe, so don't say anything that's not brand representative of JFK. They live forever. If you're still listening to this in 2020 and you have service that needs done on your car, you need new tires, you want an oil change, you can get a discount on a wash, you can get free washes, you can get rotations, you can get all kind of super cool stuff at Coates Car Care. We also want to give a shout out to, now he's from Torino, Italy, so we can't hold it against him that he's not a JFK guy. But his kids went through JFK, and he is a big supporter of the school. We want to throw them a big shout out, also a Season 2 sponsor. And Joe learned today that the Station Square, Ottavio Musumeci Station Square, just won the best seafood by the Tribune Chronicle, given to them by the Reader's Choice.
Would have never thought seafood, because you go there, you're eating Italian, you're eating, you know, what do we say, those little lamb lollipops with mashed potatoes?
Man, bro, yeah, those are good. And they carry modern methods, Joe. Did you know that?
No, that's a good thing.
Yes. Joe, I think Joe might be a fan of Modern Methods and Panthertown Pilsner, but, you know, one per customer. Oh, he's scrappy German Hefeweizen, too. He's a fan of that one.
I didn't work out today. It has banana in it. I'm going to count it as a fruit.
That is a fruit. Yeah, awesome. So, Joe, welcome to the show. We got through our sponsors. That was pretty effortless. Let's talk about Warren JFK.
Sure.
But not specifically Warren JFK. I want to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. I'd like the listeners to understand. And listen, here's our disclaimer for the show, everybody that's listening. If you went to public school or you went to a different, we're not saying that your school is bad or public education is bad or any of that stuff, okay? We're just giving some differences in to kind of what it's kind of like if you went to the Ohio State University, okay, versus Purdue versus Bowling Green. Where did you graduate from, Joe?
I have a bachelor's degree from Youngstown State and a master's degree from Westminster College.
Beautiful. Westminster, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Tim McNeil was a Westminster former Mr. McNeil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is he still coaching there?
He's still coaching cross country and track, I believe.
What's up? Shout out Tim McNeil. What up, Sticky? So those experiences you had, Westminster's got something special. Youngstown's got something special. BG has something special. The Ohio State. JFK has something special to offer. And really, faith-based learning is similar to, in a different category, but is similar to arts integrated learning. Faith-based learning it's a Catholic school. JFK is a Catholic school, but really it's not just the Catholicism, right? It's teaching altruistic, giving back, volunteerism, that kind of stuff. Tell us what those differences are.
Correct. We like to tell people that we are developing servant leaders. We try to teach our kids that a lot of our kids come from families that have the ability to help others. And as you're going through school, we try to instill in you that it's always better to give back, be it food drives, be it, we have the Jim Boyle Food Challenge every year in November. Mr. Boyle retired. We try to help the local food banks there. Wherever we could get the kids to give back. It's not just math. It's not just science. It's a well-rounded education where you learn to think globally, serve locally. We want our kids to be able to leave a mark on society, to leave it a little better than we found it. And I'm not saying, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, ditch digger, wherever your life takes you, leave your mark. Find out whatever that mark is and leave it. And that's what we want from our kids.
Well, it's interesting and personal to me because my son goes to school there, is in the system now. He's in second grade. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I really see it from that perspective now. I came out of the school system, but now to see the way that the leaders of the school, the teachers, the educators, the administration, they identify those child's strengths and they really foster that. They foster that development. And then they can also identify, weaknesses or things that the kid's challenged on and move it forward. But I want to talk a little bit more about like the good works, because it's not just, I love what you said. Would you say think globally, act locally?
Correct.
Yeah, it's most important to, this is the same thing, we're in political season right now, and everyone's focused on these federal races and, Trump and Biden and Pence and I'm always hesitant to say Kamala because I'm not really sure if that's the correct pronunciation, but Mrs. Harris, Kay Harris, I'm trying to start this thing, Kay Harris. People are talking about that, but really the voting that you do locally can have the biggest impact on you.
Correct.
Levies, what certain administrative leaders do, whether it's your county leaders or your state leaders, your legislators, your judicial people. And that's kind of funny too, because not that it's funny, but now that we're exposing it a little bit, that's a way of service, right? I mean, I don't think the public a lot of times thinks that being a public servant or elected official is a way of service. They think, oh, there's this guy with this government or girl with this government job. They're getting paid by the taxpayers, and they're milking the system.
But without those people, what is the system?
Exactly.
I mean, there are more important things they could be doing. I won't say more important. There could be more lucrative things they could be doing in the private sector.
Right.
But they choose to put themselves in the public sector. And, and along with that comes the abuse of, you are feeding off the system. You're doing this, you're doing that. And I don't believe that Republican, Democrat, I don't think anyone gets into it at the beginning.
Right.
They don't get into it because they think, man, I could do this job for 35 years and retire. They want to make a difference. Is that how it always ends up at the end? I don't know.
Well, that's maybe a topic for another broadcast.
Correct.
But certainly...
Without me.
Yeah, right. Certainly that's there. But I do want to talk about kind of this idea of good works. And it's not just the sense of Catholicism, right? I mean, the school is based in Catholic faith. There are Catholic priests that serve the Mass there. The kids go to religion. They learn a faith. Now, I don't think it's JFK's policy. I'm kind of asking the question, too, because when I graduated, I had, and here's my confession, Father Lavelle or Father Francis or now Father Chris. Father Chris Cicero has now joined Blessed Sacrament.
Correct.
Awesome. I saw him yesterday at the school. I was picking up a Chromebook, and it was great to see him. But, you have. I think the priest would want to say that Catholicism is a fine moral compass and a moral guide for kids, but really, it's not. You don't have to be Catholic to go to JFK.
No.
Right?
No.
Because they're really what you're teaching in the good works is the give back.
We are a Catholic school, the Diocese of Youngstown. We offer a Christ-centered education. It doesn't matter if you are Baptist, Protestant, Methodist, all are welcome. The thing is, when you come in, you adapt to the environment. You become what we are. We are, and I'll use it a lot, we are servant leaders. So, the students know coming in that, we are not going to convert the world. We're not going to try to convert the world. What we are going to offer is Christ in our classrooms. We are going to offer safe. We are going to offer loving. We are going to offer kind. And we are going to give you the opportunity to give those three things back to your community in your world.
Yeah, so they have, Orange JFK has programs. They had this when I was there. I don't know if it's still there, but you're going to reveal if it is
right.
or not. Senior service or volunteerism, where you'd go and I would do volunteer work at the local elementary school. One of the they used to call them feeder schools. So you'd go and you'd help out the kids, or you'd go to a retirement community, senior living, and you'd help those kids, or you'd go to mobile meals. I don't know if those programs still exist, but tell us kind of those things, because I see you guys actually taking trips, which makes me a little jealous. You guys are taking trips like globally and helping kids and adults all over the world.
Correct. And that's where, that's why we're at that point where we're trying to get our kids to think globally. Because, we were going to India and we went to Africa and we went to these places, but you could go to Appalachia and encounter it. You could go to certain parts of Ohio and encounter it. So think globally, act locally. Things that we do, we do the food banks, like I said, we do mobile meals. We do, we're at St. Vincent de Paul serving meals once a month. We're working hand in hand with Ohio Living, adopting senior citizens in nursing homes. We have a program called Birds of a Feather. That's where our high school kids adopt a classroom at the elementary school, because your class was a class that you had to take. You got credit for it. You got graded on it. That's not service. That is academic. When you are in a house and you adopt an elementary classroom, that's service. When you were taking a Saturday and you were going to St. Vincent de Paul and you were serving 75 of the least of your brother, that's service. If you're a member of the basketball team and you were working a carnival at Fairhaven so that they have interaction, that's service. Service isn't something that we mandate. Service is something that we make the kids want to be a part of.
That's awesome, man. And that's something that you see that I have seen, that I have witnessed, and here's my own story to some degree, or at least involvement in a small portion. When I graduated, I went to the other side of the state. I went to school at Bowling Green, and I don't want to say I was done with Catholicism, but I was.
You took a break.
I was exploring. I was always interested in. At that point, I was interested in like world religion. Like, what did all these other? And we had it in school. Father Leonard. I don't know if you remember Father Leonard, but he taught, world religion and world history.
Skip just passed away.
Did he?
Yeah.
He was a great guy.
He was.
Yeah, he was. Is that his name? Was Skip?
Skip Leonard.
Never knew that. Just he was Father Leonard.
Yep.
He still wore the smock.
Cassock.
It's been a long time, Joe, since I've been in the building, with in that capacity, the cassock, yeah. But so I went away, and I went and kind of tried to discover other religions. I was an altar boy. I did all that stuff. I served in grade school. I served in middle school. I served up until I graduated. You really, at that point, you're kind of like, man, I want to try to, spread my wings a little bit and explore other things. But I got to tell you, I came back to it because the foundational learnings, the foundational teachings of, being, when I say moral too, it's not necessarily like, I didn't think Catholic school was preachy. I think what it did was, it could be, but I think it laid a foundation where you realized that by giving back, you were getting something. It's a selfish thing too, to some degree. You're getting something out of it. And the something out of it is like a feel good. It's a way to leave your mark. You meet somebody later on in your life that you affected early in your life through servitude or through some type of or it's just a kind act. And they're like, when you did X, Y, Z, you might not even remember it. This happened to me, a couple years ago. You don't even maybe remember it, but it changed the trajectory. And I think that's what happens, or that's the ability with some of these kids to ingrain that in them. You can go to school and learn math, history, social studies, language arts, etc., play sports. But that idea to show them that giving back is a greater gift than that feel-good feeling because you're helping, society or the world, the ripple effect or the butterfly effect. I don't want to get too philosophical and get off track, but, you could help somebody now. In 20 years from now, that person is not on drugs and not in jail and did something to leave their mark because of something that you did.
I always try to tell the kids, and my own too, I have a, 22-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter. Did you leave it just a little bit better than you found it? Mm-hmm. And if you can say, I left it better than I found it, my mark, whatever it is, then you're successful. I can never judge my success or my failures based on where I work, what I do, how much money I make. That really doesn't affect me. I judge on when my kids come back. I've been doing this since 1995. I've been in Catholic education since 2000. When I run into my kids, and they're all my kids, at the end of the day, they're all mine. And they say, do you remember when? And because of that moment, I now do X, Y, and Z. That's how I judge my success. I don't ever think that, I never want anyone to think they're bigger than the institution. I don't want anyone to ever think that without them, it doesn't happen. Because I like to tell everybody, Kennedy's been here since 1964. St. Mary's there before that. Everyone's replaceable. Leave your mark. And your mark is, did I leave it just a little bit better than I found it?
Well, I think sometimes I'm interested in this duality between typically it's like athletics and art, or alphaism and art, right? Joe's an alpha. You guys can't see Joe, but Joe's like an alpha, right? And so a lot of times people will gravitate towards that for leadership. But Joe also, underneath this kind of rough exterior, is a softie like me, okay? He's like I don't want to say a sensitive guy. I don't know if you cry at movies, Joe. Are you a crier at movies? You don't have to reveal that.
I mean, Star Wars does make me sad.
Which part?
You know, anytime a good Jedi gets killed, I might shed a little tear.
Dude, how about when Han Solo got killed in the Force Awakens, man?
I cried.
Yeah, did you?
I did.
I did too, man. I did too. My son is total off topic, but my son, when we watched, not Star Wars, but when we were watching Avengers Endgame, and Tony Stark gets killed, and my son turns around. We were at the theater, my dad, him, and me, and he turns to me and he goes, and the theater was set up. It's one of those theaters where you can like eat and drink in, and they have like little stools and little, little counters to place your food, and then they have tables. And we got there a little bit late. Okay, Fogarty boys are always running late, and we got this like a side part where there was like a little. You had a couple chairs and you had like a little counter, right? And so we're sitting in an angle, and the chairs are swivel chairs. And Jimmy looks back and he goes, Tony Stark's dying, and he looks back and he goes, Dad, I think I'm gonna cry. And I said, well, that's okay, man. Like, you don't have to be ashamed of that. And I could hear these girls behind me. I think they were like high school age. And they had seen, they'd seen us walk in, and I could hear them behind us. They go, oh, he's so cute. Usually I would think they were talking about me, but
not if you're with Jimmy.
Right. They were talking about my boy. And then I could hear them crying. And then when he said that, I could hear a couple of the girls go, oh, they were empathetic. We teach empathy at
Correct.
JFK to feel for others. But I got to ask you this, and this is why I bring up the alpha thing. Does that mean that we're doormats because we empathize? We could still be alphas and still be altruistic and still be caring about our fellow human. It's not like this rough, tough because was it 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? I'm going to bring athletics in because JFK is known in the city for great athletics. Right. They've got 2 state championship football teams.
Yep.
They just won in 2000. Help me out. 2016. Wow, has it been that 4 years ago? Holy smoke! Mr. Bayek, Coach Bayek, just retired. They got a new coach. So you can still be an alpha and compassionate. It doesn't mean, by giving back and being caring, that doesn't mean that we're not tough.
No, not at all.
Tell us about those athletics over at JFK, Joe.
I mean, it's...
What are you guys teaching over there? What's going on?
Hopefully all the right things will let you know tomorrow night about 9:30.
What happens then? That's
the end of that should be when the first game's over, and I'll know what the new coach brought to the table.
Oh, right on. Gotcha. Oh, tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's Friday, yeah. The thing is, you talk about being an alpha, and you talk about, caring and compassion, and you talk about, look at Knapp.
Coach Knapp, Tony Napolet.
You want to talk about an alpha?
Yeah, oh yeah.
He was an alpha to the nth degree.
Yeah.
But nobody went through that program and ever doubted for 1 second that Knapp loved him.
Yeah.
He may grab you, he may shake you, he may blow that cigarette smoke right in your face. But you never doubted for a minute.
That wasn't on the field, though. He didn't blow it in on the field, but
yeah, okay.
It could have been afterwards.
But you never doubted in your heart that Knapp loved you.
Oh, yeah.
And Coach Bayek was the same way. The thing with Jeff Bayek was, it was so weird being his boss because I was his pupil. I sat in a freshman English class at Youngstown Ursuline and had Jeff Bayek as a teacher and a coach.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, the day I became his boss, it was like, who's in charge here? And the last day I was his boss, I wanted to know who's in charge here because, he taught so many life lessons. And that's what our coaches do. Our coaches, it's not X's and O's. It's life lessons. It's, picking yourself up, when you get knocked down. It's getting back up one more time, then you get knocked down. It's spending hours in the gym, shooting, doing layups. It's, out on the soccer field. They're committed to the kids. They're committed to winning, but they're also committed to leaving them better human beings, because all our programs do service somewhere at some time.
Yep.
If it's the basketball team at the nursing home, if it's the football team at the mission, if it's, the volleyball team, helping at the lower campus, they all do it. And they don't do it because I say, hey, you're volleyball, go to the lower campus. Hey, you're soccer. They do it because they know they have to give back, because generations came before them that gave. Kennedy couldn't be where Kennedy is today without hard work of your parents, your grandparents,
sure,
those generations who didn't have a lot of money. But when there was a need for an auction 30 years ago, they got together and started an auction. And Kennedy has the longest running Just for Kicks auction in the Diocese of Youngstown. There is no other school in the diocese that has had a continual year after year auction for 30 years, except John F. Kennedy. And that's because a group of mothers got together and saw a need and saw the school needed money and said, hey, let's do this. And they did it. And 30 years later, it's still going on. And, there's a group of dads, goal liners. The original goal liners, they're gone.
all gone. Yeah,
they're all gone.
Yeah,
but the organization isn't.
Sure,
because their sons and their sons and their sons stepped up, because that's what their dads did. That was what was instilled into them. That was them. That was Kennedy. The motto, "We are Kennedy, we are family." I hear a lot of schools use "we are something, we are family." I got to tell you, in my 10 years, I see "we are Kennedy, we are family," because it is generational. It is historical. I mean, I don't know what I would have done for the last 10 years without Jillian Phillips, who is Jillian Rossi, because she's my linchpin. Jill, who's this? What do they do? How long have they been around? And she'll lean in and go, class of 82, his grandfather, and I'm like, got it. Next group, who's that? Class of, I mean, the fact that, there is so much family tie is incredible.
Well, that doesn't mean that it's just that JFK is just for those who are, kind of legacy alumni. Like, you're going to build there's a lot of new students every
Correct.
year, and those students will leave their mark, and they potentially are starting a new branch. That's what's kind of cool about all of it.
In 20 years, there'll be another Jillian Phillips.
There'll never be another Jillian
Still
Phillips.
leaning into me, going, class of 2018, you remember you were there. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I got this one. Because I'm pretty sure I'm still going to be there.
Well, that's good to hear, because you were already, we were talking in the quote-unquote green room. You're already planning your retirement at 77. You said 20 years or something.
Well, God willing, at 70, I may...
You biohacking, Joe? You biohacking, you're good,
I'm
man.
just hoping that, one of my children are going to give me a grandchild instead of just living the best life now.
You won't know what to do with yourself, right, man. Well, it's funny that we talk about all those different things. You bring up those things. I got a little misty-eyed when you started talking about Knapp, because Coach Tony Napolet was my first and only football coach. He was tough as nails. And you kind of go back, if you go back to that, which is to go back to that kind of alpha thing, not that a beta-type personality is a bad thing, okay? We need to have leaders, and we need to have followers. We need to have the captain, and we need to have workers. All these things they're all very important. There probably wasn't a tougher dude than Jesus Christ. I mean, Cat survived the flogging and the whipping and the torment and the thing and the crown of thorns and the whole deal.
Definitely the original servant leader.
The original servant leader. I'll go one further. And I'm not gonna drop any slang that my mother will not like. I know some other episodes I have, but Jesus was like a BA, and if you know BA, that's
oh yeah.
B.A. Baracus was a guy from A-Team, and Jesus was like the original BA. Jesus was a cool, strong dude. Coach Knapp, cool, strong dude. Miss him. He's not with us anymore, but I got to say, he was a Golden Eagle Award winner, which is kind of like a notification of those who have given servitude to Warren JFK. You mentioned the goal liners, which is another thing that's great. I got to give mad props and shout out to one of my best friend's dads, Dave Benko, because every year I got to sell tickets for the goal liners.
Sell them or buy them.
Yeah, sell them or buy them, and that's another thing. Kennedy really teaches. You're teaching me some stuff today. Kennedy really teaches self-reliance and self-servitude, like a DIY approach. You just mentioned those ladies, and I don't know who they were, but hey, we needed money. We're going to have this Just for Kicks auction. We're going to do it ourselves. We're not going to, hey, we need funding for the football program, or we need funding for a new classroom, or we just spoke about hand washing stations while we're in the time of COVID, and a couple of alumni graduating classes, maybe one that is the one that I graduated in. Shout out to my boy John Richards. Okay, they're donating to do this thing, so
Correct.
it's really a self-survival and a do-it-yourself kind of approach, and I think that teaches self-reliance. It teaches the students not only to be altruistic and to do good deeds, but to be self-reliant. If someone can't do it for you, don't give up. You're going to do it yourself, right? Speaking of the Golden Eagle Award winners, someday, there'll be other people who are, and when Joe is in his 70s, we'll have other alumni that came through the school when he was there. But past and present alumni and past and present business leaders and office holders. I just want to go through a list because I think the alumni is a testament to
Who we are.
Correct. Great education, and you put it best. From the bricklayer to the car buyer, from the doctor to the dentist to the guy that's, reading your meter, okay? Like, do it the best that you possibly can. That's what Kennedy teaches, that idea that it doesn't matter if you are. And I love that you talked about the money thing. I don't know if I've mentioned this in any former episode, so if anybody's a serial listener, you may have heard this before. There's a great documentary on Bob Marley. I think it's on Netflix. But you could certainly Google this and see the video. And Bob Marley was getting interviewed at the height of his fame, right? He had gotten out of Jamaica and achieved worldwide success, and his music was global at that particular time. And this guy was interviewing him, I think from the BBC, and he said, "Hey, Bob, Bob, you sold a lot of records, and he says, you made a lot of money, and you're rich now. What is that like?" And Bob Marley said, "What do you mean? How do you mean rich?" And he said, "Well, you made a lot of money. You have a lot of possessions." And Bob asked the guy, question back, he says, "Possessions make you rich?" And the guy says, "Well, and Bob says, "That's not rich to me. Rich is my family and my experiences and the things that I do and the things that I can do in my life. That's what makes me rich, not the money." And so, to your point, Joe, about public servitude and other things, like notable alumni, we've got former mayors of Warren, which is where we're at. We've got a few Ohio State representatives, legislators. We've got a few state senators. We've got judges. We've got county commissioners here in Trumbull County. We have a current United States congressman. We've got a handful of award-winning filmmakers. Chris Columbus, probably the biggest, most notable. Goonies.
Who doesn't love the Goonies?
Oh, man. Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, give me a break, right?
I mean, we're children of the 80s.
Harry Potter.
Children of the 80s. You could name any movie he's made. Everyone in the 80s, we're going to go, "Oh, he made Goonies."
Man, dude, it's awesome, right?
Gremlins, Goonies.
He wrote Gremlins. Yeah. Artists, media personalities. You had mentioned earlier, we were talking about the the guy from the talk show host.
Hugh Hewitt.
Hugh Hewitt. Other media personalities and business owners, large and small. Small business owners, large business owners, big business.
I mean, you go anywhere from Kenneally Enterprises, Panera, McDonald's, Dairy Queen, to Jimmy Codes Car Care, to, Frankie Tempesta, who owns one gas station. I mean...
And is a police officer.
Well, let's just hope that Frankie does a little more work at the gas station than he does on the road.
Well, that's kind of Frankie's a great example, because not only do we have like people in these very professional positions, judges. There's a couple of judges.
Sam Bluedorn,
James Frederica, a host of people. But there's guys that are those hardworking, the tradesmen, the high-ranking officers in the military, police and fire. Frankie's a member of the Warren Police Department.
Your buddy's a fireman. Binko's
Brian Binko, yeah,
Binko's
one of my
kid's
best
a fireman,
friends. Yeah.
Right.
So you have that. You got doctors, who serve the world in world-renowned Cleveland Clinic.
I'm going to tell you, he just wants to be known as 1994 MVC champs. Quit pushing Valent as a doctor. He just wants to be known as MVC champs. That's his calling card.
He's working in the Cleveland Clinic as an oncologist, man. It's amazing. So
you think he tells everybody that?
No,
he walks in the room.
He doesn't tell anybody.
Checks their pulse and goes, I was 1994 MVC champ.
Oh, he might tell them that.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah,
you think he tells them that?
Oh, when he's on the job?
Yep, that's his calling card.
Maybe. I can tell you this. That's the other thing that Knapp taught you, that I think a lot of these people that I've mentioned, or a lot of these positions that we mentioned, you'd never know. I mean, you'd never know that a guy like Frank Nanicola and Armin and Charles and Frankie have the second, and don't quote me on this because I don't remember, it's been a long time, but, they've got one of the, I think it's the second largest bingo supply in the nation.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah. And so, these are people that humble, they stay humble. You would never think that, this guy's got he employs 400 people.
Janet was one of the founding mothers that started the Just for Kicks auction.
I'm sure. Yeah. She's one of the nicest people. In fact, I just saw them at a graduation party at Ottavio's son's graduation. And, she's one of those ladies that used to drive me to soccer practice.
I use the word genuine to describe most of our families.
Yep.
If you're looking for one word, it's genuine. They are what they are to your face. They are what they are regardless of who they are. Genuine.
Award-winning authors. I don't know if I said that or not. We've had some authors. And clergy.
Father Chris Cicero.
JFK grad.
JFK grad. He is now the pastor at Blessed Sacrament. Father Tom McCarthy, he was retired in residence at Blessed Sacrament. He was the St. Mary's guy.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And, he is one of those guys. Father Tom's got to be somewhere in his 80s. If you call him, he's there. He comes to whatever we come to. He will come to events, contributes to everything. Just genuine.
And we have some amazing educators who were students that came through the JFK system, and now they're back in the system.
Well, Brooke DeJulio,
yep,
our kindergarten teacher.
Yeah,
she's
my son's kindergarten teacher.
And she's a Binko.
Yep.
Dana Roscoe, teaching first grade.
Yep.
What was her maiden name?
I don't remember. Mrs. Roscoe's.
Her father owned the furniture store across from the mall.
She told me, and I want to go back to it. They were some of the first commercials I did was there. They were closing as I was just starting my career.
I mean, she's awesome.
Yep.
You look at Mrs. Vendali.
Yeah, she's
just retired.
Yeah, shout out
Mrs. Vendali just retired after it seems like 77 years. I have to tell you, when I took over at Kenneally 7 years ago, I took over as the president of the school system, and Sue was the person who always told me how it was done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But as we spent more time together, I figured out that she is just genuinely a good person.
Oh, yeah.
Could never get her to use anything other than a piece of chalk and a chalkboard. But again, genuine.
Yeah.
And that's all you want. Fred Hoover is still around.
Fred Hoover.
You know,
Yep.
I mean, for God's sake, Fred, I think, came with the building.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing because even if you go back into the feeder schools, so here's a testament to some of that. And this may be also, although I have a lot of friends that have very similar stories. Now, I know there's a trend today in not dissing college, but people are like, oh, you know, I'm going to go to college and learn stuff and I'm not even going to get a job. And so I'm going to go into this or that or whatever. You know, listen, college isn't for everybody. The trades aren't for everybody. The military is not for everybody, you know, but some of those things are for everybody. So whatever you decide to do, you do it your best. But when I went to college, I felt like the first 2 years I was doing things in college that I had learned in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. Like I literally, I'm trying to keep it PG, so I'll just say this. I had some girls in Bowling, some friends in Bowling Green that were a couple years older than me. I took a 400 level history class and they needed like some tutoring. So they would come over and I would write. So yeah. And so they would be like, are you a history major? I was a freshman and I knew. And of course, here's another thing. Kennedy teaches you, especially because it's such a low teacher to student ratio, like your interaction, right? You learn by doing, right? So your interaction is a thing. I always was raising my hand if I knew the answer and sometimes if I didn't. And so during this class, the professor would ask these questions and I would be raising my hands. It was U.S. history. And it was world history. Father and Leonard, okay? Raising my hand, knew all this stuff. But the stuff I had learned was from Tom Schilling in 8th grade at St. Mary's. And this was like a 400 level junior, senior history class. So I was so prepared for college that once I figured out that it was mostly time management, you know, get your classwork done first, and then you can go like hang out at the rec center or, you know, if you're of age, have a few libations at the thing or, you know, whatever it is you got to do.
That really wasn't a requirement at BG, but go ahead.
Yeah, right. You know, then I attribute that to the Kennedy education, you know, this idea that we learned. I mean, we were prepared so well for college. And that's the only experience I have. I didn't go to trade school and I didn't do other things. But I could give you a guy like Brian Binko, who did go to Dayton for a short, you know, went to Dayton University for a short, or University of Dayton for a short amount of time, and then decided he wanted to serve as a fireman. But he's got a business too. He does stump grinding. He's a guy that like, he could take all these lights and stuff apart and put them back together. He does like machinist work now on the side. I mean,
who does machinist work as a side job?
I don't know. The guy's a worker. Yeah, I don't know. But that's the kind
golf.
Yeah,
I golf
you golf
on the side.
Right? Yeah, I do a podcast.
Okay, there you go.
Jiu-jitsu if I have if we're not in the time of COVID. Speaking of the time of COVID, though, to switch gears a little bit.
Wait, before we switch gears a little bit, are we going to talk about Gunner?
Oh, well, we should talk about.
Are we going to talk about Gunner since we're going to talk about history?
Yes, we should mention
or the thread that has connected everybody since 1960. No, I'm sorry. He got hired in 1956 at St. Mary's. Can we talk about the thread that has gone through everybody's life since St. Mary's in 1956 and where we are today?
We certainly should. We've got to kind of set it up for the prouders that are out of area and out of state. The very first Golden Eagle Award, which is an award for distinguished Kennedy alumni who have given back and et cetera, et cetera. The very first one went to John Gillen, affectionately known as Gunner, who not only taught at the school and was the AD, and I think, was he the Dean of Men at some point?
Probably
at
some point.
Probably was like...
Yeah, I think he was everything at some point.
He was everything at some point. What an amazing contribution that this guy made to the school. And like Joe saying, he started in the 50s and kind of... what year did he retire? 2000 and
I don't like to say John retired.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Because John worked
In his retirement.
No, John worked up until
yeah.
shortly before he passed away.
Yeah.
Let John stay on as athletic director. He would call me that last year. He was calling me from a hospital bed in his living room and telling me, I think it's raining. Should I cancel baseball? And I'm like, John, why don't you just, take a break, watch TV. We'll figure it out here. Nope, come on over. Okay, John. So Gunnar worked from, the 1950s until 2 weeks before he passed away.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the greatest thing that I've encountered in my time at Kennedy is when Peter Rossi and I decided that, a guy who spent every day of his life at Kennedy should take one last pass through the parking lot. And we didn't tell Gloria. We set it up, and the funeral procession came down Central Parkway, pulled through the circle at the school, and all the kids were outside. There's no other way John Gillen would have wanted to go home than with all his kids out front, acknowledging the fact that, he was at work one last time.
You're making me misty-eyed a second time in the podcast, Joe. I've only done that a few times. Once now and 2 times in one episode.
Remember when Yoda died? I cried then too.
That might be number 3.
Okay.
But certainly Knapp and Gillen touched a lot of lives in such a positive way. Immeasurable. Really immeasurable. And both those guys, it was funny to know them as a kid, both as a student and or a student athlete. The first thing that Knapp taught us on the football field was you better bring your grades up so that you can play. And he wouldn't play you if you didn't have your grades together. That was the very first thing.
I will tell you with Knapp, before I came to Kennedy, I was at Kennedy Catholic High School in Hermitage, and I was the head football coach there. And we were small, we were young, we
Scrappy.
were playing.
You were scrappy.
We were playing, Class A football.
Yeah.
And my athletic director scheduled JFK. I'm like, it's 2007. I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I'm the dean of students. I'm the head football coach. And, Knapp was wary at the time. We would send the golf cart, took him off the bus. He had enough talent that Knapp could have put about 65 points on me. So, after the game, I walk over. I got beat 28-7. My kids didn't know what Knapp did, but I did. And I walked over and I go, Knapp, I don't know how to thank you. He goes, you're young, and I could run it up on a lot of people. You ain't one of them. And that's what I took away. And when I came to Kennedy, 5 years later, that's what he said to me. You remember? I go, yeah. He goes, now do right. And I've been here 10 years since.
Well, I got to say, I met Joe. I don't know exactly when I met Joe, but when I first met Joe, I was like, yeah, all right, he's all right. He's kind of a... No, I did. No, I was like, he was all right. He's all right. He's kind of a, he's kind of a gruff guy, but whatever, man. I can dig it. It's cool. But I would say, as an alumni and a witnesser of a fraction of this, because we're all there just a short amount of time, but you have done right by the school 100%.
Thank you.
And right by guys like John Gillen and Coach Knapp, who were institutions at that school, as well as there's a whole litany of other people that we're not talking about, the Coach Werns and the Coach Lees and just the athletics itself. There was a lot of great people that came for that school, and there were a lot of great athletes. We talked about our sponsor right off the rip, I think 86 Penn State national championship, Jimmy Coates, man. This is a guy that went through, it's a small Catholic school. We went on a full ride to Penn State and was part of the national championship. And I think ran back a punt or a kick.
I think it was a kick.
A kick. Was it in the national championship game?
Yes.
He's a bad dude, man. What up, Coates?
I still wouldn't fight him.
I wouldn't fight. Listen.
I'm going to fight James before I fight Jim.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what, though. I'll tell you who I wouldn't have fought. I wouldn't have fought Mr. Coates, okay?
No, that's what I hear.
I'll take Jimmy and young James at the same time. Are you guys listening? I'll take both of you guys at the same time over Mr. Coates. But he's another guy. He was a gruff guy. People were kind of like nervous to be around him once you got to know him. Man, he was such a great dude, and him and I hit it off because he would have these like really weird creative ideas. As a total sidetrack, okay? Coach, you're getting a little sponsorship in the middle of the episode too. He had this idea one time. He said, there's a lot of Amish around here. And he said, we should get a black horse and a black carriage, and they'll be on the outside of the car wash. And then they'll go through, and when they come, we'll get a white horse and a white carriage, and that's how clean they're going to make the car. They're going to wash so much dirt off.
Now, how'd you not let that happen?
Listen, I was trying to, but Jimmy was like, we wanted to,
Jimmy's always trying to, he's squashing good ideas left and right.
Man, he squashed it. I said, we got to run this idea with your dad, man. It was awesome. Speaking out, running some good ideas, though, tell us about, I do want to shift gears because I really want to talk about the learning in a time of COVID. You guys you're 5 days a week over at JFK. You have both a on-campus and online learning.
We do.
But let's talk about the on-campus stuff first. The cubicles, the masks. How are you doing it 5 days a week? A lot of these schools are doing 2 days on, 3 days off. What's happening over at JFK?
Let me tell you, by the grace of God, we're doing it. This is day 9. And I never thought that I would be to the point that I counted the days at the beginning of the year the way I count the days at the end of the year. Yeah. This is day 9. We took a lot of time and a lot of precautions. It's like when you've had since March 14th to think about this.
Yeah.
And day and night, my 2 principals, Elise Consiglio and Jackie Venzio, I give them all the props in the world. This is what we've talked about. We've talked about it during the workday. We've talked about it in text at night. We've talked about it in email. It'll be 11:30 and Jackie will go, and I'll go, Jackie, it is 11:30 at night.
Go to bed, Jackie.
I go, I'm old. I've been in bed for an hour and a half. Do I have to read it now? She goes, no, I just wanted to put it in your hands. And Elise will be like, bam, 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 bam. And I'm like, whoa. They make my job easy.
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that, we followed everything that the governor has put out. We have social distancing. Our kids are all in masks. Pre-K to 5, every desk has a desk barrier. Shout out to Ted Bloom. Did
Ted do that?
Ted developed every desk barrier we have. His company came in. They made them. They fabbed them. They put them on the desks.
No, he's got a couple companies. There's another guy. Is it Bloom Industries or was it Incredible Plastics? It don't matter.
Let me tell you,
Ted was
Ted
like,
Bloom.
what? Yeah,
it could be. He knew what we needed. He was going to make sure we had it.
Yeah, what a good guy.
He has 2 kids in the system, so it's this is what I do for a living, but this is what I'm going to do to protect my kids. So they came in. So every desk has a
like a
cage.
plexiglass, right? Yeah.
I don't want to use the word cage.
Yeah.
Clear casing.
Yeah.
So that the kids could be 3 feet apart instead of 6.
Protective barrier.
Correct. They're all wearing masks. The teachers have, protective shields, but we're putting, the size of our classrooms. We put air conditioning in all the classrooms. So all the classrooms at both campuses are now air conditioned. They're filtering air.
I'm jealous.
So that all the air is not only cool, but filtering for the kids. We've partnered with ServPro. ServPro is disinfecting. A lot of schools are saying, we are teaching Monday, Tuesday, disinfecting on Wednesday, teaching Thursday, Friday. ServPro's in both buildings every night. Static electricity, sanitizing everything from the gym, the weight room, the locker rooms, every classroom, every desk.
Are you listening, Renee? That's my wife.
Renee, you should have came to school.
So, that's another. So you guys gave options.
We did. You had the choice to either come 5 days a week, or we partnered with a company called ACE, and ACE is doing a online schooling for we're starting out first semester, but our teachers are doing the legwork. So we partnered with them for the workbooks. We partnered with them for the program. Our teachers are doing the grading. They're doing the instructing. Hoping by first of the year, everybody is back home.
Oh, I hope so.
Everyone is safe. The last 3 years have been nothing but growth for us. You know, I always say you don't grow a tree from the top to the ground. You grow a tree from the ground up. So we have seen our growth in the lower campus. It's now hit the upper campus. You know, our junior high is the largest junior high in the Diocese of Youngstown. You know, 6, 7, and 8, we have over 160 kids, which is phenomenal. There's entire grade schools that don't have that many kids. Largest freshman class than we've had in years at 62 kids.
Now, some people listen and they'll go, 62 kids. My kid's got 62 kids in the section of his class.
Well, let me tell you what, though. Last year we graduated 31 seniors. Mm-hmm. Those 31 seniors garnished $3.2 million. We're doing something right.
In
grants and scholarships.
Grants and scholarships to go to post-high school education.
My daughter was class of 2016. 26. Nope. She'll kill me. 2018.
Better get it right. I might edit
Sorry,
that
Cam.
out.
2018. Her class also had 30 kids in it. They got close to $4 million. We're putting kids in Ohio State. My daughter went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, which is the #1 fashion school in the country. You know, we're making global leaders.
JFK is a college preparatory high school.
I've always told people, you know, when they go, what's the tuition? And I'll say it. Elementary is $37.50. Non-parishioner rate is $57. High school, it is $7,500, $8,500 non-parishioner. I go, but it's a front-end investment. And I say it because I made it. I made the front-end investment, and I told my kids from the time they were little, you will go to private school. I'll give you the best education because in the end, I'm going to give you your college money now. You know, my daughter goes to the Fashion Institute at $70,000. She's gotten, you know, her first year, she got $37,000 in scholarship. We're doing something right in Catholic education.
Sure. Well, and you're a product of, I know you said, but just again, you graduated from Youngstown Ursuline.
Class of 88.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting old.
Shut up.
You're getting old. Youngstown Ursuline is how many kids did you graduate with?
I graduated with 268 kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of more of an average or closer to a public school. Some of these public schools are graduating 600,
right,
400.
But I mean, you know, even Ursuline, which is probably the largest in the diocese. They are graduating between, you know, 97 and 100. Mm-hmm. You know, with St. Thomas probably being the I'd say St. John's and Ashtabula probably the smallest, graduating close to what we're graduating.
Let's talk about that just for a quick second, about the state of affairs in faith-based or Christ-centered learning, particularly Catholic high schools. There's some enrollment, you know, and Joe's just kind of given us some uptick numbers, mm-hmm. where the numbers are on the growing side. But there's some misconceptions that, you know, I'm not going to send my kids to, it doesn't even have to be Warren JFK. It could be wherever. I'm not going to send my kid to this Catholic school because they're not going to be around. What's up with that, man? Is JFK closing, or is Ursuline, or the Youngstown Diocese combining schools? I've heard this rumor multiple times.
I hear them all the time. No, I mean, you know, because of the fact that everything we've talked about for the last hour or so, mm-hmm. my alumni at JFK doesn't want to go to deal with the alumni at Ursuline or Mooney. I mean, it's all different worlds, but we're all holding our own. We're strong, small, but strong.
Small but mighty.
You know, how many did you graduate with in 94?
93, I think.
Okay, you know, my sister graduated from Youngstown Ursuline in 82, and I think there were, 600 kids in her class.
Holy smoke, yeah.
But, I mean, mills shut down. People move away.
Right.
We're holding our own. You know, our classes are steady. Our size is, does not fluctuate. It's not like we have 400 kids district-wide one year and then, 600. We hold steady between, 550 and 600 kids a year. We don't have a whole lot of turnover. We get them younger because that's where you grow from. You grow from the bottom up. We retain them. There are 313 kids at the lower campus. We lost 3 last year. And you know what? It comes out to be about 2%. And everyone says, you only lost 2%. I stay awake at night and try to figure out what I did that I couldn't keep those 2%. That's what makes JFK different. We don't look at what we're keeping. We're looking at what we can do for that 3% we lost. Because those are 3 kids that we didn't make a difference. And if we're not making a difference, we're not doing our job.
Well, you could also look at it as some students or some parents may not, how do I put this delicately, to not offend. I've been in multiple schools across the county and really across Northeast Ohio. I get invited to talk to certain schools, and I've gone and I've done some work in inner city Youngstown with some programs that we do through nonprofits. There are unfortunately some parents who don't, and I'm not judging them. I'm not saying they don't care, but they're not taking the time to really put the effort into their child's education. They drop them off, and that is it. The kids don't eat. They come, you see it.
Right.
You see it. Everybody sees it in education. Anyone that's a teacher sees it. And I think, unfortunately, teachers don't get enough credit. We should definitely give them more props and thanks for molding young minds, because education truly is the future. How about that?
Is that for me?
No. What a rookie mistake, too.
Is that for
Here's
me?
what's funny is my dad called, and literally 30 seconds, a minute, my mom called. So they both called at the same time. I didn't turn this phone on mute because I have a new case. Anyways, there are some, so you might have lost 2%, but that might have been a 2%. And I know that because you're vested and you want to, you want 100%.
Jimmy, you know what? We know, Elise, Jackie, and I, we know we're never going to save them all.
Right.
But we're damn well never going to stop trying.
Yeah, right. The 2% that left, how much did you gain in the following year?
Our numbers this year is odd and strange because
this year's probably a misnomer a little bit because of COVID.
But I will tell you, it's a plus year because we've made the commitment to go 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So
you want people who want to have their kids in school,
and people want their kids in school.
Sure.
So where everyone thought this would be the year where Catholic school died.
Yeah.
I saw growth. I had a waiting list. I'm like, where y'all been?
All right. So pre-COVID, though, you still were growing.
We were. We probably would have gained this year like we did, but we wouldn't have had a waiting list because, your 5
Well, you
days,
only have so much space, too, right?
And, with social distancing and,
sure,
let's be honest, 2 years ago, I would have packed them every 2 feet. Let's go.
Yeah, sure.
But we're doing social distancing. We're doing the barriers. We're doing all these things, and you still want to make sure that you're meeting your family's needs, and not just taking to take. Everybody who applies goes through a rigorous admission protocol. You fill out the application. You have an interview. Elise looks at your transcripts. Jackie looks at your transcripts. I look at transcripts. Read your essays. Are you going to be a fit? We're not going to take.
Yeah, right.
We're going to take because we know what a Kennedy kid is.
Sure.
We know what we want to make.
Or a kid that can be a Kennedy kid.
Can be a Kennedy kid. And, and we tell everybody, we will give you an opportunity. But you need to know that we're not going to adapt to you. You're going to adapt to the Kennedy way.
Well, that's also doesn't, right. And that doesn't mean, I want to clarify too, just because I want to be one of your brand ambassadors, Joe. This isn't an elitism type place.
Not at all.
There are kids from And even when I was there, it was the same way. In fact, actually, I think it's gotten better. There are kids who are from, lower to middle income to upper to middle, blue collar type tradesmen workers, all the way to some of those notable alumni that we mentioned.
110%.
Yeah, so it goes all spectrums, and it goes all races and ethnicities.
Yes.
Kennedy's got white kids, they got black kids, they got Asian kids and Hispanic kids. They got, from all walks of life. And so because that was part of the deciding factor. My wife went to public school and she had a lot of questions. And thank you, because you answered a lot of them for me, to her, because she doesn't believe what I'm saying. But she saw first off, the care and I want to say like the average ratio, student to teacher ratio is like about 20 to 1.
18, but yeah, right.
18 to 1, right? So, they're going to have that type of attention, which is great. And part of the education process was, and her misconception was, well, it's a bunch of kids who come from well-to-do families and they're all white. And that's not what the world's made up of. And I said, Renee,
that's not what Kennedy's
That's not what Kennedy's. Yeah, this is because we live in a very diverse world, and you want to be, diverse in your education and in your student body. And I think you guys have done a great job of that. There, of course, now I'm on the other side of it. We did not. We took extra precautions. We are part of the online learning through Kennedy. We just started this week. School's just back. We are already questioning the decision-making process. And my son is a pretty astute young guy. Anyone that follows the podcast online through Facebook can kind of see, he's got a big personality, and he has high aptitude.
I'm going to be Jimmy's one-on-one teacher, aren't I, by Christmas?
It could be after I'm lobbying for that. But I can say that even the online part of it, once you get through the technical things, this week is really the technical stuff. Right. Where do you save the stuff and how do you do it through the computer? And, Kennedy has given, if you're a student, you sign a Chromebook out. So which I should have done anyways. We actually bought him a Chromebook. I texted Joe a couple weeks ago and said, hey, man, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I'll get this one. Anyways, I didn't get the one you recommended.
Was I in the ballpark, though?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I got one, and unfortunately, after 2 weeks, the touchpad went. So I just sent it back. Oh, and wow. I called Jackie, who's the principal over at Blessed Sacrament at JFK Lower Campus, and she was like, Jim, just come in and get, you guys get Chromebooks. So now we got a Chromebook, and he's learning on that. Anyways, my point is, we decided to keep him home, mostly because we have aging parents.
Mostly because Renee said so.
Yeah, well, 100%. Probably 85%. She's got, both her parents have comorbidities for COVID, and my mother does, and I actually am. I'm on an immunosuppressant, which I've talked about in other episodes. So we were cautious.
Right.
We played it safe. But we see the pictures online now, and Renee's like, I can feel her, anxiety is maybe the wrong word, but I can feel her, maybe we should have. So hopefully he'll be back and this is all over with. But I got to say, so far, I texted Jackie I called the school the other day and talked to Jackie. Jackie Venzio is the principal over at JFK. And she said, Jim, come on over and get this stuff. And, there's workbooks for the thing, and they're able to walk it through. They're going to have a Zoom meeting. Right. So I think all schools are going through this right now. I'm really happy that we're at where we're at because we've been kind of guided through the process. So hopefully we can get through all this.
Yeah, I don't want it to sound like we're, doing anything above and beyond that anybody else wouldn't do for their kids.
Sure, 100%.
Because there's a lot of good going on out there. We were able to do what we were able to do, the 5-day week open, because we're only two buildings. We're in such close proximity. We have good relationships with everybody. So our public schools are doing the best they can do. We're doing the best we can do. Day 9, I'm walking on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And every night, what do? You go to bed, you pray for your family, I pray for my kids, and I pray that day 10 is as good as 9. Everybody comes out on the other side, and we get a chance to do it again.
Well, it's funny that we went in yesterday to see Jackie Venzio, Mrs. Venzio, principal again, and I brought Jimmy along, and they were chatting, and there's a couple people within the school, from the lunch lady to the custodian to the front office people, all take a vested interest, and they were all like, "Jimmy, how you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm good." They were catching up. And I really got to say, after 20 years being in, public relations and media relations and marketing and, all that stuff, I've become a good read on people. I really, I feel like I have like a built-in lie detector, especially because I watch a lot of testimonials of footage that we shot and you replay things.
Right.
But anyways, the thing that I observed with Jackie was, and I told her, I go, "Jackie, take care of yourself." I felt, and this is a testament to how much she cares. I felt her anxiety. Jackie was a little, this is not, Jackie, if you're listening to this episode, this is not commentary. You looked great. Okay. But I could just tell that she had been, stressed, man. She's got some anxiety, and this is why I say, when I was talking about teachers, like every teacher feels the same way, but she had a lot of care and thought process that went into this, and she lives and breathes it.
Correct.
And so it was great to see that. And that's the kind of the Kennedy way,
and,
man.
Lisa's the same way at the upper campus.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Do you remember back in December when we met, my hair and my goatee were black?
Yes, I do.
They're not anymore.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking if you're biohacking, Joe. I'm not really.
I think I need to start.
We need to all take a vacation. When this whole COVID thing all blows over, the whole world's going to be on one big vacation. Part of the other thing that you did in the forefront to grow numbers at the school, to grow enrollment was, and this is how Joe and I kind of met. I'd met Joe prior to doing I met Joe while I was doing marketing for Warren JFK, which is my, I'm an alumni, also a former teacher. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did know that. We've talked about that. But I met Joe and I was like, "Oh man, this guy's pretty cool." And then we met again, and then his marketing, or I won't even say marketing, you were doing things to get students in the county and in the valley, and really were a trendsetter, because after we started doing some of the stuff we were doing, you started seeing more TV.
Correct.
And some digital, advertising in the digital space for schools, because, we live in a population where it's been shrinking because of a lack of employment, because of the manufacturing or the steel mills, et cetera. And Joe was really on the forefront of getting in front of all that. And there were some figures, and I meant to ask you this. I should have asked you this beforehand instead of asking you now. But, in terms of like college preparatory, which is not the end all and be all, right? I want to say that at some point, it was like 97% of graduates were accepted to major universities.
We graduate 100% of our kids. Anywhere between 90...
Say that again, because I don't know if everyone actually can understand that.
We graduate 100% of our kids.
No, that can't be right.
It is.
You graduate 100% of your student body.
Correct. Because we track you from, your freshman year on, where you got to be to where you got to go to graduate. We're going to put 97, 98% into college. We have kids that, leave school and start a job, go to the military. They're still making a difference in the world, but they all walk out with that Kennedy diploma.
Joe Kenneally, how can one who is listening in Northeast Ohio and really across the world. Maybe there's some people that are listening somewhere else that hears this episode and they go, wow, I love what these guys said. I really want to be a part of it. How do we find JFK? How do we contribute? How do we be a part of it?
www.warrenjfk.com. Go to our website. Jill Phillips does a tremendous job with it. There is everything from soup to nuts on that website. You find whatever you want, you're going to find there.
Jillian Rossi, my next door neighbor on Halsey Drive, who learned basketball playing in the backyards with this guy. Okay, she really didn't, because I was terrible at basketball.
I'm going to tell Chad you said that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and he was a great that kid was a great ball player. But yeah, she does a fantastic job. And that's the other thing. We have a lot of alumni, whether local or abroad, who they do such an amazing job to give back.
100%.
Yeah, we mentioned from the Binkos to there's a great amount of families that have come back to teach. They've come back to contribute. My good friend, Dr. Jason Valent, Mr. MVC 94 champion. Champs. Okay.
That's all I'm going to call Jason, so I don't care what you call him, doctor.
Oh, man. Yeah, you got guys that are out of town that are really contributing, and so I think that's what makes the difference at Warren JFK.
But Jimmy, you got to realize you do too. I could not have done half the things that I've done to promote the school without you. I mean, how many times have I called you with a half-cocked idea, and you're like, let me think about it. I'll figure out a way to make this work.
Listen, Prodders, I did not put Joe up to this ahead of time, I promise, but I do thank you. We've done some great things. We've done some great, I'll call them marketing pieces.
We've done some crazy shit, too.
Yeah, we really have. And really some stuff that I think have made a difference. We just recently did some videos for what are they called?
Wolves of Warren.
The Wolves of Warren.
Why I Choose Kennedy.
Yeah, Why I Choose Kennedy. And, these were students that were sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Were there any? I don't think there were any freshmen.
No.
Sophomore, juniors, and seniors. I'm trying to enunciate. I better have some water. That were giving their ideas as to why one would want to go to Warren JFK. Mm-hmm. And for all these reasons in the last hour and almost 20 minutes that we've been given. This is what's cool about podcasting, is that in a 30-second commercial or a 2-minute web video, you really can't get into the depth of the information and the depth of what's actually attainable at JFK, or that's not the right word. What's possible.
Right.
We don't really understand, and you don't get a sense of who Joe Kenneally, president of JFK Schools, is all about. Joe, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Jim.
We're going to wrap up. We got to mention one last person, and Joe's going to take me afterwards to Salvatore's Italian Grill, who's also a season sponsor too. Joe, you buying me a pizza or what, man?
Heck yeah, you got to get that. What was that pizza they used to sell at the mall that they sell there now?
The Briar Hill?
Scotto's.
Oh, well, did you know
that thick crust pizza?
Did you know Salvatore's?
I did.
Yeah.
That's why I know. We do carry out, and I still ask for that, and they're like, I don't know which one. I go the thick one. They're like, yes.
Yeah. Sal was part of that Scotto's. Yeah. I totally forgot. Scotto's Pizza, Eastwood Mall, was next to the movie theaters.
Heck
man.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
And you could still get it at Sal's.
Yeah. Shout out to Salvador Coppola. His son and daughter, also alumni of Warren JFK.
Yeah,
they got 3 locations in Austintown, Howland, and Niles. Boy, I better know that. Sal, I'll be promoting you tomorrow on the drawing. Hey, listen, prodders out there, once again, here's just a free bit of advice. If you visit theprodcast.net, you can sign up for our giveaways once a week. We draw and send you not 1, not 2, but 3 gift cards. 1 to Coates Car Care, 1 to Station Square Restaurant, and 1 to Salvatore's Italian Grill. You get lunch, dinner, and a clean card. Joe, you should probably sign up for this.
I'm just waiting for Jimmy to yell my name out one Saturday, that's all.
Theprodcast.net. Sign up for free giveaways. Until the next time, be kind to one another, stay electrified, and be super cool. Joe, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks,
appreciate
Jimmy.
it, brother.